Right, I suggest we start. Hello, everyone. We're quite few today here. Glad to welcome everyone still. I'll introduce myself. My name is Jan. I work as a QA manager in a mobile. We develop our own products. Also, we train QA testing. Today we'll talk about the use of statistics of user data in testing, in the testing tasks. Why so? Most often, when we talk about the user statistics, we mean the role of the business analyst, marketing, expert, but the testing specialist doesn't really come to mind that often, although it is a very good instrument to improve our daily routine. To each of the new approach to certain tasks to be more optimized in our approaches, because this way we can base on our conclusions on real data. This is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Not all of them are usable for statistics, but we'll try to cover at least some of them. We'll start with the first direction by improving this set of tests using statistics. I'll give you an example. This is one of my projects. I work with mobile apps. Therefore, most of my examples from mobile testing, but it can be used anywhere. There's a nice scanner app that allows to recognize, store, and edit documents of various formats. Let us imagine that new feature appears in such an app. For example, the possibility of joining two documents into one. When we talk about the new feature testing, we already have a clear instrument that allows us to select tests based on the equivalent classes, domain testing, and so on. Based on this, define the priorities. But here our sets don't end. We have a number of other suits for regression testing, for version updates, and so on and so forth. And we can come across a question: how many documents we need for this app? How many documents we need to test using regressive testing? How many pages do they need to have? In other words, how many of them we will distribute at different levels of depth? What will be using as acceptance or others? What are the priorities here? And this is the very case where it would be good to turn to statistics. In this case, the first and most important statistics data will be data talking about the number of documents that users have. You may not see it very well, but I'll describe it. Here we have statistics for a period. This is real statistics. We'll see from here that most often the 15% of users have one document, 9% of users have two documents, and it's downhill onwards in terms of percentage ratio. Well, on one hand, we can say that this is the point where we found that one or two documents will be enough for testing, more priority based, because in terms of statistics, business statistics, they're in the first two positions, but in fact, they are not the priority options. Why? Because then we'll have to analyze it based on what share this distribution have. And if we look at this based on the years, particular groups, we'll see that one or two documents covers just 25% of users. So we have only 1/4 of the total number of users. Then they have more documents at their disposal. If we go down, we'll see from 10 to 106 documents. And this example has the limitation of 106. So 55% of users have up to 106 documents. So even though the 102 pieces is widespread, the majority of the users have more documents to analyze what we do in this case, based on our understanding of the testing goals applicable to our very project and based on some quotes level that we have chosen. We retain these three groups, we keep them and use them later in a certain sense. For example, 1 or 2 documents are enough for acceptance for the version updates and simple user scenarios or critical bias. 10 documents should be enough. The rest should be used for regression. To cover all other testing approaches like load testing, stability testing, and so on. So we use the bigger number of documents. At the same time, this data can be distributed and used to understand what amount can be manually tested and what amount can be tested automatically. Based on statistics, we see that a certain number of users have quite a big number of documents. In other words, we need to provide for stable operation and processing of 100 documents, which means that it will be difficult to do manually. Here, we come to the automation solution because this share of the users is quite high, and this amount of tested data is very difficult to create manually. At the same time, the profit here is that we're avoiding the pesticide effect by using the same amount of data. So we don't take 1 or 2 documents constantly, while at the same time we work with different amount of volume of data, different levels, depending on the feature that you're making analysis for. This could work not only for data, but also can work for others. When we talk about data, ideally, some people might want to analyze it in the middle modes and medians to understand the figures needed to operate in all the tests, not to simplify the approach. Additionally, we understand clearly why we tested such a big number of documents, about 100 of them. I believe that once in your lifetime you came across the question why you're testing that. Maybe it's useless. It's some unreal scenarios you're trying to explore. But the user statistics allows us to give a clear answer to this question, which is supported by statistical figures and data. Overall, any feature can be analyzed in this way. Talking about the example, a scanner and work with the documents, we might as well analyze the statistics on the number of pages in these documents. Yes, there could be 100 of them, 100 of them, but again, the statistics shows in this case the biggest part of users have a 1-page document. At the same time, we shouldn't forget that even in this case, we have 23% of users that have more pages. And if we talk about the stability operations on the app, we need to consider this testing, including among other things the following. If an app has its database structure changed and the user, after they install the app, have a migration data process, and this is the crucial part that needs to be kept. We will have certain amounts and volumes that real users have and that we can rely on as a minimum amount that needs to work properly. The next direction, we find, improve, and prioritize our testing scenarios. I would say even we better understand testing using the Sankey diagram. Based on depending on the statistics service your project team uses, it can be called a pathfinder or path exploration or path align, and so on and so forth. It could be the titles may vary, but this diagram showing the directions divided into streams. When users select the most popular options that follow each other, they can single out popular scenarios and see how the app behaves. At the same time, this can be done, this analysis, by users or for users at the very start of the application or until a certain point or a certain feature, when a certain feature kicks in. For a short and optimized example, I've selected the feature called creation of documents through scan. What is happening on the side of this user? They scan documents using the camera. What scenarios may take place? We see that the user opens camera, launches camera, and launches the document mode, which is there by default. They short manually, one single one, they edit it and then go to the main screen. This is our main scenario, and the priorities we need to use in our test. But if we look at it and how the streams are distributed, we'll see that the next popular mode is the passport mode, and the passport mode can detect the borders of the passport and make it show automatically. Here are the differences from the previous scenario. Here the screenshot and auto show is made 2 times. Then the user saves the document and shares it, so they don't leave the documents in their online format on the phone, but shares it. And this is the logic. If we look at real life scenario, we make a photo of passport in order to send this photo somewhere, to share this information with some people. Here we selected, for example, a simple scenario that may be reached logically, but if we conduct such analysis app for the first time, we can find very amusing scenarios, but it's particularly relevant for the apps that where users are trying to bypass the monetization. There are users that use the free version to continue doing that. They come up with a number of interesting moves. It's interesting to analyze this from the point of view of users that use paid version, free version, how this streams are distributed, what would be the more or less priority scenario. The graphics show the visualization, but many tools, they are very often supported by concrete figures that can be used later on in work. Summarizing this information on this, we have scenarios based on the real, alive behavior, not the guesses of the testing specialists and others, but how the real user behaves in the app. If you have usability problems, streams will show it. There will be some illogical sequences, which would mean that users face problems, and you must conduct additional testing in order to understand what to do with it. Also, the next direction is about selection of configuration. Overall, when we ask questions about the testing devices or the browsers for that, we see the following scheme. We select certain parameters, for example, device, the operation system version, and the region, in order to understand and learn where the audience lies, which part of the world has a big audience. We mix these parameters and come up with a prioritization. This is the right approach. And this is what we all learned when we were studying to become what we are now. But again, there can be traps on the way. There are a number of directions when selecting your configuration that we have learned to consider. The first one being that the region does not equal the localization language. If we look at the graphs, we'll see that the most popular countries are Italy, Russia, and Mexico, if we select the three. At the same time, if we consider the language popularity, Italy and Spain have the same number of users, while Russia has a small number, and then we have in the top 5 the English language, although neither the United States nor the UK or any other speaking country was shown, which means that while selecting configuration for testing localization or other approaches, it's not necessarily that the distribution will follow the language pattern. And we need to consider this while testing and selecting the configuration. The next point that I've already touched upon in the past is the users that use the paid version and do not equal the free version users. It is relevant not only for configuration, but also for scenarios that are used to work in our app. I'll give you an example. The first graph shows the distribution based on the device popularity among the users. They have free version and the paid version. The free and paid versions are different in the way that the paid version has features in the scanner app that require more power, because there is some augmented reality to calculate the area of the room and other features like AI model taught to perform certain tasks. Consequently, in this case, while testing the functionality that is aimed at users that use the paid version, we may increase our requirements performance of the device, because the free for use version users use more informative devices. And secondly, comparing the side screens of the iPhone 11, 12, and 13 with those of Pro and Max, we'll see that the screen is bigger, which means that more users will be working with a bigger screen. Consequently, it needs to be considered when testing the user interface and exploring the usability experience in order to avoid any problems. Next is severity of the bug. If we look at the reference book, we'll see that the severity definition depends on how the issue affects your app. But we all know that there are plenty of companies while that using one of the testing principles, in other words, that the testing depends on the context. Many companies adapt severity to their processes and their needs. In other words, the user statistics can also influence this. But how? You can detect and verify based on detect severity based on the number of users who will consider this bug as a bug. I think you all remember from your experience that there are bugs that may, on the one hand, seem serious for us, but when we extrapolate a feature, but we look at it from the point of view of the user, we may find that this is not a problem, this is not a bug, because they don't know what was planned, and for them, it may not be a bug at all. So one of the ways to deal with that is to adjust the severity definition based on the number of users that will notice it. Again, there are functional or non-functional bugs. You can read more about that in the article following the link in the slide. The next important part is the search for bugs through the statistics, using the statistics. We can use the statistics in order to find the issues. The first thing here is the sequence of the user's actions. Depending on the tool you're using, it can be called an event stream and something else. Here we have an example from the amplitude service. Basically, what we see here is we have a user ID that the statistical service uses to understand and aggregate data of the user, and when you use that to support the app, if you have a special user ID sender, you can easily find the user info in the analytics and be easier to localize the issue, particularly as far as the flowing bugs are concerned. You can review the flow of the user depending on the statistics. You don't have to have back and forth communication between the user and your team. But this can be used not only dealing with real users. Again, you do not always have a device connected to the logs, or there could be a call account telling you that there used to be a bug, but here's a screenshot, but I cannot reproduce it. So you can take this device, sniff this approach, and use the event stream in order to follow the sequence of actions. At the same time, the event stream allows to find duplicates of the events or wrong sequences. And the duplicates in the sequence may not be connected with the fact that the developer mishandled the events. It may have to do with some functions that are called upon in the wrong sequence. For the user flow, everything happens fine on the service. The user will not notice the error, but it could turn out to be an issue for stability or could provoke further issues in general. The work with statistics and operational statistics, once it has been already implemented, is needed by someone. Marketeers and analysts may use these events to receive the statistics without duplicates and other wrong sequences. Again, with the use of the stream, you can find events in the sequence that is not possible or impossible sequence. There can be scenarios that should not work. They can be caught, detected using the Sankey diagram that I mentioned previously. Also in the stream is what it means. For example, we have a paid-for functionality that is available to the users that have active subscription. In the statistics data, we see that if there are users that use the paid functions, but have the subscription ending or expired, this will also show that this is a bug that needs to be solved. In this case, this is a critical bug because it has to do with the business and the money. I cannot avoid talking about what we all have worked for, like crash and ANR. In other words, user statistics that need to be tracked and monitored. In fact, I regularly hear that, particularly it's relevant for mobile apps, that we don't. Statistics is not collected. We don't have statistics services that cannot review the crashes and so on. But if the app is sold, it means that there is an account in the App Store or in the Google Play console, in the Huawei console. Consequently, there is an account and a certain number of data that is collected automatically. If your app is sold, there is definitely an account that manages this, and there is statistics regarding this. So you simply need to find a person that will be able to help you get this information. This is non-financial information, so I don't see any problems with that. Please try to get access or at least screenshots of this information. In the crash and ANR data, it's very important to note the periods after the release is done, or it should be done every week in order to timely react to the user issues, like the crash instability and see how crashes instability stability affects the App Store appearance, and store appearance, App Store appearance. Talking about the web, the apps that use Google login, it's necessary to make an account where the system will be automatically collecting statistics. So there'll be no user data. If you're not using it, again, there are some figures regarding the effectiveness of the configuration, so they're available by default. So it's worth finding the ends and finding this info. The next point is using the user statistics is possible to improve not only quality options but the process. Save time, money for your team and yourself. For example, what could be the scenarios?
You need to do additional regression and consider it in the configuration testing. Developers have to fix it constantly and consider it in a plan, or ignore it, or input fix it. It might not be a configuration problem, but problems with the functionalities, some kind of clusterization of bugs in the module, or legacy code complaints that leads to these problems, or just part of the application that keeps seeing those problems popping up, even though during the impact analysis there were no leaks determined in the developed features. Okay, if you're encountering something like this, you might consider some steps to improve it. In this case, I can warn you that the final solution will not depend on you, but rather having an opportunity to analyze the user's specs. You can see how many users are and how frequently encounter this bug problem, how critical it is for us business-wise, which ones of those users are main money makers for us, because it could be buys, subscriptions, or just banal watches of advertisement. So in other words, you need to assess how many users out of that paying base encounter this problem, and you need to calculate how much time during the release we spend on correcting this repeated bugs. Go to PM, ask him to do the same for all the stakeholders and people involved. Try to calculate how much time is spent by the developers and designers and the stakeholders in the release to solve these problems. And then, based on the acquired data, go to the person to decide what else we do about this, be it PM, customer, or somebody else like release manager. What can we get as a result? You might be told that, okay, let's forget about this configuration. We're no longer wasting our time on this. The same would be about functions. Let's forget about this, not waste any more time on this, because we have confirmed data that we're not losing anything on this. There might be a different situation when you might be told that no, it's an important function or configuration for us, and we're going to continue working with that. But at the same time, we'll have data, confirmed data that might urge us to solve the problem of technical debt, or otherwise we might be told that we live with what we have, and in terms of the costs we can live with that, but anyway we get an educated decision based on data, not based on some subjective view that I say consider that it takes too long, it's too expensive, or something like that. And now we have approached the directions which I would like to discuss with you today. Of course, there are many more of them, but if we use the user statistics in testing, we get a more educated and optimal solution. We can provide argument-based answer to the number of tests, priority of tests, and so on. What should we do if you're not using statistics yet? First, you need to try to learn which statistical services already are introduced into the project, what already is in use, be it consoles or accounts for mobile applications, or those could be some advertisement services if they're embedded into your application. They must have statistics in terms of at least configuration. You can find out the required data like this. You can find out what already is in use and ask access to them. Not all of them can provide you access to them, of course, but anyway, you can try to formulate a customized request related to your problem, or ask them to share information to better understand what already can be used now, what can turn out to be useful later. And I'm sure your team will be glad to share some screenshots from the service. We study data and then we use them in our work. One thing when we analyze statistically, if it is statistical analysis is inefficient, you will have to return it back later. And to optimize it, you need to fine-tune dashboards and identify the frequency of use and keep returning back to this data, and in order to analyze whether you're on the right path and nothing has changed. Maybe you need to revise some of the approaches and then enjoy thinking that you're cool and that you are the person who have learned to use a new instrument that you use in your work, which improves not only the application but the processes themselves. And I guess that would be it for now. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very cool. Statistics is my favorite subject matter. I have a million questions. I'm going to do one at a time. First, most important thing that I'm interested in. We collect statistics, we see some information on it, but how to test it? Okay, when we introduce it, we can check it, but regressions of UI and functionalities, everyone is used to that. But as far as the statistical regressions are concerned, nobody, as far as I know, is doing that. And you can get it broken, and you will learn about this only because your diagrams go askew, and you can never tell whether they have gone askew because of something else or because of your statistics. What would you recommend as a replacement of statistical regression? Because it's taking quite a while. In fact, it's indeed a painful question when we have a lot of statistics. It takes a lot of time to do the regression. I know what to recommend. To do the regression as infrequently as possible, but to do regression anyway. Because when we are living the situation, we have some metrics, business metrics, which are important, and we regress them, do the regression for them for each release to make sure that businesses will not be hurt if something gets broken. Other things, the additional things, are less of a priority. And we know how frequently regression needs to be done. Additionally, in my team, we try to use, after impact analysis, of course, we try to go to the features and manuals and see what kind of actions have been undertaken to do the regression for them as well. But again, unfortunately, when we have too much or too many actions, we're also experiencing same problems in the process. Thank you for your presentation. My question is less about how to process data, but rather how to collect statistics. What I'm saying this because, of course, in mobile apps, they have app store, Bell Market, they have others might have some in-depth restrictions like Yandex. But if you need to collect statistics anyway, should you write your own services or use some other channels to do that? Thank you. I believe that here we need to rely on a simple fact that on business language, basically, that it's always time and money and the profit that the project is going to get if statistics is put to good use. There are free of charge instruments that can be used. Not always right away you need one big instrument with a lot of statistical features to analyze everything. You can start with small incremental steps. But again, I'm saying that if you try to dig through services which have already been connected, and I'm sure that some things have already been connected, there you can find some basis for different configurations and stabilities, and look at how they can be put to good use, and then think, oh, what else or other requests can be done like that. For instance, what painful things you have. Out of my example, we have some documents which are hurt. How many documents we need to do that? Just need to analyze how much time is spent on that, whether we miss bugs on stability and volume, and then use it as a good proof that here we have a downfall and operate it as good argument in your favor. I have a question. Out of your experience, what statistical services you enjoyed the most? You mean basic ones? What I can say here is what I have worked a lot with, and the way I look at it, it's Fairways, Amplitude, Google Analytics. These are just like conventional set, the index statistics. What I like to work with, I enjoy working with most the stuff that I know how to use. There are plenty of tutorials. Basically, any service can be have a special place in your heart if you watch all the tutorials. When do you collect the crash info? In Fairbase. But again, there are some specificities there, and they might be non-specialized. That is why, as far as crash-free indicators concerned, you have to look at it in App Store Connect and in Google Play Market as well. Thank you. Thank you. Another question. Say, statistically, you found that you have crashes. After looking at it, you see that it's important, you need to fix it. But you cannot reproduce it. Neither you nor the developer can tell you how to reproduce it. You said, I just fixed it based on my hunch. Can a tester do something here to make sure that it has been corrected? Without just doing all those, mystic things that we usually do. We do regressions for functions to make sure that the crash fix doesn't break what has already been working. Yes, indeed, we do experience this quite often. But within our team, we have agreed that if there is a possibility to reproduce one way or another, say with the use of some kind of additional features in the toolkit of the developer through our toolkit, if there is a possibility to add something and try to reproducibility, then yes. If there is no such possibility and you say you have to do mystic stuff and do the Holy Cross sign and send it to release, what we observe some metrics right after the release, and a day or 2 days after that we see whether the problem has been fixed or not. If not, then we start it from scratch. And in some cases, it happens that if we fix it once, we fix it two, and still it persists, then we add additional statistics on the user's actions to understand what was happening there. And again, using statistics, we do additional examination, whatever was variable there. Can you please select the question that you enjoyed the most? I guess my favorite question goes to you. I know, Pavel, you already have your t-shirt, right? That's why, to make it fair. Thank you. And in fact, it would be interesting for us to see the statistics on this presentation feedback, so give us smileys. Thank you, everyone.